You are looking at the Caesars Palace, the Fighters' home for Pride 33, the second coming. Welcome to Before the Bell. My name is JT McCarthy alongside Joey Varner, but for all intensive purposes, we're going to call you Joey Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to a great show.
It's going to be a great show. A couple of great things to talk about. Dan Henderson taking on Vanderlei Silva. We've got Takanori Gomi taking on Nick Diaz in his Pride debut. Some exciting undercards, and of course, as always, we will throw it backstage to our insider, Loretta Hunt, with all the news and details of what's going on behind the scenes. But right now, let's dive in with both feet. Vanderlei Silva, Dan Henderson for the Pride Middleweight Championship of the World. Vanderlei Silva taking on Dan Henderson. This is going to be a phenomenal fight for more than one reason, but more notable, if Dan Henderson pulls this off, he's going to be doing something rather historic in Pride.
Historic indeed. Dan will be the first fighter to hold two belts in two different weight classes simultaneously. And the weight is the big thing here. How's Dan going to look at this weight of 205 pounds? The last time we saw him this big was in the King of Rings tournament when he won the tournament, defeating in the same night Gilbert Yvel, Babalu, and Minotauro Nogueira. That Dan Henderson is a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. And speaking of forces to be reckoned with, Vanderlei Silva, in a word, I would say hungry.
Hungry, starving. They don't call the axe murderer for nothing. Every time he hits you, he's not looking to hurt you, he's looking to kill you. And coming off a big loss, a knockout loss that is, to Mirko Cro Cop, you know he's hungry to let the U.S. fans know exactly what he brings to the table.
What do you think are the keys to victory for Dan Henderson in this fight?
Dan Henderson needs to look for the home for that big right hand. He's been working with Sean Tompkins, a phenomenal striking coach, so know that he's going to be a heat seeker on that fist. He also has to impose his will. He can't let Vanderlei bully him around and put him on his back. Vanderlei wants to clinch those knees, put him on his back and make him pay.
And Vanderlei Silva?
Do what he does best. Take his head off. Rain the pain, bring the bombs, knees and punches, get in that clinch and knee him in the head.
Takanori Gomi, the Pride World Lightweight Champion, is taking on Nick Diaz in his Pride fighting debut. But a little interesting to note for Nick Diaz, he's giving up a little bit of weight this fight.
Yeah, Nick's actually going to be coming in 9-10 pounds lighter than usual. He usually fights at 170 pounds. It's going to be interesting to see if the weight will be a problem. Now, what Nick wants to do to keep this his fight is use his range. He's tall. He's over 6 feet tall. That's so big for a welterweight. Now, if he can use his long limbs and keep Gomi outside, he has a chance of knocking him out and making a successful Pride debut. If not, if Gomi gets inside and rips those vicious hooks to the head and body, it's going to be Gomi's night.
Now, interesting to note also, will Nick Diaz have a problem fighting from, being a cage fighter to a ring fighter?
The funny thing is, Nick's actually fought in a ring as a professional boxer before and has said that he prefers the ring, so I don't think the transition will be anything new to him.
Conspicuous in his absence is Frank Twinkle Toes Trigg, who's normally standing in the position that you're in right now, but he's going to be stepping back into the ring, taking on Kazuo Misaki. That's going to be a very interesting fight for both parties.
Interesting indeed, and this is my fight that I call the underdog comeback kid fight. Both fighters were counted out and came back in a big way. Trigg came back knocking out Mayhem Miller to win the Icon Middleweight Championship, and then Misaki loses in the Grand Prix. Philo gets hurt, he fills his spot, and then not only does he beat the current champion Dan Henderson, but he beats Dennis Kang to take the whole tournament. This is definitely going to be an exciting matchup, and I think the winner is going to be the next contender to fight for the belt.
Now, if you're Frank Trigg right now, what are the keys to victory in your own head? What are you thinking about right now going into this fight?
Let my hands go. Frank just scored a big knockout over Mayhem. He's got heavy hands, and he can punch fearlessly because he's a wrestler. He doesn't have to worry about the takedown, and quite a wrestler he is. He's a 4-time All-American, so the time gets tough, he can't land the punches, put him on his back. Now, Misaki's on a roll. Beating Dan Henderson has to do a lot for your ego, and then winning the championship. I look for Misaki to be on his toes, moving a lot, and make this a long night for Frank.
In some undercard action at Pride 33, the second coming, Hayato Max